It's my husband, Alldredge, and my mom, Betty Harris, and my dad, Clarence, who's under the weather. If you know me, lucky you. If you don't, lucky you. You're gonna learn about me today. I want to just real quick start from the beginning. We actually got into health around 6 years old, when I was around 6 years old. I don't know, Mom and Dad would have to give you the elaborate story. I was 6. You know, everybody asked me, what made you go vegetarian? I'm like, well, I kind of didn't have a choice. I was 6 years old. But it's a good thing. Sorry, excuse me. But it's a good thing. So we started around 6, and I remember all growing up through my childhood, Miss D, and coming to her health class and getting to eat all the good stuff and talking about, you know, all the helpful things like growing up. One of the hardest part though, if anybody has done it for a long time, how many of y'all have been vegetarian or vegan or vegetarian for 5 years? Is anybody vegan or vegetarian?
I was for 8 years, and when I had the knee surgery, I got off, and I've been trying to get back on them.
Okay, well, I mean, we'll just do it in a consecutive amount of time. Who's been vegan or vegetarian for longer than 5 years? Okay, longer than 10. Longer than 15? Okay, that's good. All right, so that means most of y'all have gone a long period of time. I grew up vegetarian in the South, which is really hard to do because we're the barbecue state for real. Growing up in school, kids would ask me questions. I didn't have the answers. I was a kid. I don't know. I was like, save the animals. I don't know. When we go to Miss D and we'd go to nutritional classes, I would learn things, and I would get to go back and tell them, you know, well, this is why I don't do this. And they laugh at me, oh, that's silly or whatever, you know, silly little vegetarian girl. Everybody remembers me now at 30 years old. Everybody just said, oh, you're the little vegetarian girl. Yeah, that's me. I went into retail. I did that for about 8 years, and I learned a lot of stuff about marketing and the lies that they tell you on the labels, the things that they hide from you, and how it's kind of evolved. Just in 8 years I was in it. I was actually a manager, and I got to see firsthand because I was actually in the books and the ordering and knowing where it comes from and who makes it. Anybody know who makes Morningstar? Does anybody know the company that makes Morningstar? Kellogg's.
Kellogg's?
Yes, Kellogg's makes Morningstar. Yes, they do. So, just a little side note for you. There's like I said, it just kind of falls down. I actually went to India in 2008, and that was a culture shock. Has anybody ever gone out of the United States? Good, thank you. I think everybody should at least travel abroad one time so they can understand that this isn't all there is in the world. There's more out there, and it can be a lot worse, it can be a lot better. So when I went overseas, I went to India. They're mostly vegetarian. I got to eat some of the best food. I had fresh panini. Everything was made fresh. Everything was just, it was all, like I said, most of their food was vegetarian. They don't eat cow in India. Most people don't. I mean, there might be 2% eat cow. They actually worship it over there. So that was a really great experience getting to go and try different foods. So if you don't branch out and try different cultural foods, Indian is one that you need to try. I got out of retail and I went over the road for a little while, and I've been driving a truck for the past 4 years, and I mean a big truck, 18-wheeler. That's what I do. So when I went over the road, and the only reason I'm telling y'all this is because I just need y'all to understand the being vegetarian, you know, it's not always easy. It's gotten easier as time has progressed, but being over the road, I thought since, you know, vegetarianism was starting to trend, if anybody, you know, not knocking on the age group here, but nobody's really close to my age or younger, but it's really trendy to be vegetarian and vegan right now. But it still wasn't very friendly over the road because everything that I had to prepare was in my truck. I'm the biggest I've ever been right now. Like I said, it's gained about 30 pounds on the camera, but because I literally sit all day. And everything I eat has to be fast. It has to be processed. It's, it's a quick heat up, or I have to eat out or something like that. And it's a really, it does a lot on your health. And I actually kept a lot of weight off when I was over the road, but it was still inevitable because I couldn't get the exercise that I needed to get. And they push you. I mean, they push you to get it. You got to get up, get rolling, go to bed, get up, get rolling. So there's really not a lot of time for exercise. In fact, truck driving is one of the most unhealthy jobs in the nation.
Dangerous too.
It's a very dangerous job, yes ma'am, but it is over-the-road truck driving is very unhealthy. In fact, you have to get a DOT physical 1 or 2 times, or once every 2 or 1 year, depending on your health. I'm actually on a 2-year physical right now. I'll have to renew it next year, just so I can drive, because that's how bad the health risks are, that you have to, it's mandatory to get a physical to make sure you're healthy enough to drive. It's that bad. So that was a hard thing to do. Like I said, the health trends, I just love how it's blossomed since the internet. People can talk to other people. And I remember, like I said, growing up, going to health food classes, and then Dr. Oz is the big thing. Everybody's talking about, what's the next big thing? The apple cider vinegar and coconut oil, and I'm like, well, we've been doing that since I was 6, activated charcoal. We knew all about that, but I was weird witch doctor crazy, but now it's the norm. So it's, and the internet and social media has really, really opened those doors, because a lot of us that thought there weren't that many of us out there, there actually was. So now we can communicate with each other. So you can be weird, it's okay. But we're actually healthier, healthy weirdos. Okay, so I just want to make a full disclosure. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a engineer. I don't know a lot of things. Tom thinks I know everything. Thinks I think I know everything. So, it's probably true. I used to, but to be honest, I don't know everything. I can tell you what I know, and then you can take the information that I give you, and you can form your own opinions. I'm not up here to convince you that 5G is good or bad, or tell you what to think or anything like that. I'm just going to present you with the information, and you can take it and decide what to do with it. Okay. I want to start out with a quick quote and a scripture. The quote says, "One of the greatest challenges in this world is knowing enough about a subject to think you're right, but not enough about the subject to know you're wrong." That was Neil Tyson. He said that. So I don't know if anybody ever heard of Neil Tyson. He's a big philosopher. But, of course, the best book to get your knowledge from is the Bible, Proverbs 18:15. It says, "The heart of discovery acquires knowledge, for the ears of the wise seek it out." So I think that's what we're doing here. We're looking for knowledge, because the more we know, the better equipped we are. Okay, so I'm going to try to run through this. A lot of information. I'm going to try to run through it as fast as I can. As soon as I get to the end, I'll open the door for questions, because I know everybody likes to use questions, and I know that there's some people who want to put some input, so I'm going to get to that. But the main question that I'm going to answer for y'all, because y'all asked me last, what was it, November? No, it was October. Back in October, what is 5G? So I'm going to try to answer that for you. What is 5G? Is it good or bad? Which again, I'm going to present the information. You form your own opinion, and why. So just to start off, the actual definition of 5G literally just means 5th generation technology. That's what it means. 5G is 5th generation technology. We have come a long way in technology since the beginning of cellular devices back in 1981. 1G was the first opening of the wireless cell phone and analog signal. Does everybody remember that big brick phone? Y'all remember that? I can't get my hands on one. I don't know if y'all had one or not. But you remember the big brick phone? That was the beginning of 1G. There was a standard set, and that was the start of it. Also, if y'all remember the cars that had the phones in the car, the wireless phones in the car. So that was 1G in 1981. In 1990, we moved to 2G, which brought us SMS, which is text messaging, where we can send information, which, you know, y'all remember the old flip phone. This is, just wanted to bring these dinosaurs out so everybody can have a little nostalgia here. Back in 1990, this was second generation technology, if you can get a visual. So we moved past this, and they introduced internet browsing. And I don't know if y'all ever, did anybody have a BlackBerry? Y'all remember the BlackBerry? I don't know, do they still make phones? I don't even know if they make phones anymore. But you remember, it was the biggest thing. The BlackBerry was all over the place. So this was the closest thing I ever had to a BlackBerry. But this was actually during the 2G era when they started opening internet on cell phones where you could access the internet. This little dinosaur was my best friend in college. So I'm going to keep a hold of it in case I ever have kids. I'll be like, this is what I had. So I could look up whenever my professor was posting our next class. This is how I looked it up online. And that was 2G. So in 2001, they introduced 3G, which was faster internet speeds, where you could communicate with internet a lot faster. And again, this was part of the 3G network. And then the smartphone came out, the touch screen, which actually, I think it was 2008 when Apple released the best touchscreen phone that they had, and we were in the era of 3G. So we had moved to a whole new era of technology, okay? So what we're in right now, and this is my note, it's actually old, it's Note 8, I believe, and they're already in the Note 10s, so I'm actually outdated. Don't roll your eyes. I'm actually outdated, but this is 4G. What we're in right now is considered fourth generation technology. It's a lot faster. We have speeds up to 20 to 100 megabytes. You can watch television. You can do live video chat. All these interconnections with technology in 4G. So that brings us back to 5G. So before I start explaining 5G, does everybody know how cell phones work? Or cell phone towers and connections and all that work? Does everyone have a general idea? Because I can do a quick run through of it, just because if you need to understand how the cell phones work so I can explain 5G to you.
Go for it.
Okay. All right, so I'm I'll try to do it as quickly as I can. I mean, I'll draw it out for you, but I probably could draw it for you. So basically, for how cell phones work is you have your phone. When you send or make a call, send a message or make a call, that phone sends a signal to a tower. Okay? So that signal goes to the tower. Then the tower goes into the ground on a communication cable or an optical fiber cable. Now, depending on if you're in domestic, like the United States, or if you're overseas, they actually have the optical fiber cables that run under the ocean, and that's how we communicate to other countries. It's not by satellite, like, you know, I thought for the longest. I thought all of our stuff goes up in the air and then it comes back down. Well, I was completely incorrect. We're actually still mostly wired. The only thing that's really wireless is the cell phone to the tower connection. Everything else is wired. So it goes through the fiber optic cable, and it goes to the next cell tower closest to the person that you're trying to communicate with on that cell phone, and then it sends the information to that phone. Okay? Does everybody understand? It seems pretty simple, right? The only wireless is the cell phone connections. Everything else is still wired. Okay, so to explain 5G, there's a few things that are going to come with it. That the reason why the health and everybody's questioning it. So I just kind of did a quick diagram so you can keep up with it. There's 5 things that's already in place that's going to be introduced, and I'll explain each one of them as I go. Millimeter waves, small cell, massive MIMO, which again, I'll explain that, beam forming, and full duplex. Okay? So don't worry, I'm going to explain these one at a time. Okay, so like I said, right now, cell phone to tower cable here. So this information that comes from the cell phone to the tower, y'all understand wave frequency, that it goes through a frequency to the cell phone tower. So if you take a picture and you want to send your friend, you find a funny picture, you want to send it to your friend, it takes that picture and it breaks it down into, I can't remember all the names, so y'all are going to have to bear with me here. A binary code, that's the word I'm trying to binary code. Y'all ever heard of binary code? The 101101101110, all that stuff. So it breaks it down to binary code into these little boxes. It'll break it down, and then it'll send the information that way. And then the information moves through, and then it goes to the next tower, and it runs through the frequency in those little boxes, and then it puts it back together, and you get your image on your phone. Sounds real simple, right? But it's a lot of technology involved. So to roll out 5G, does anyone know what the radio frequency spectrum is? Y'all have any idea what that is? I didn't know until I started doing research that it even existed. The radio frequency spectrum. Okay. So to explain 5G, basically the radio frequency spectrum is what we use to send information to each other. So when you get in your car and you turn on the radio, right, AM, FM, you turn it to, what's a good station, 96.9, I don't know what y'all listen to, or 88.1, that's the Christian station here. So if you go to 88.1, you turn it on there, and you can hear the sound coming out, the music. But if you leave the state of Alabama and go somewhere else, or even go down to Birmingham, you'll lose that signal, right? And it'll change to a different station. So each town has different stations based on that frequency. Well, this is just in a broader scale, because the radio frequency spectrum is a real thing. We just can't see it. So they have to break it down in each country, so we're not all using the same frequency. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? Okay, like I said, it's the same thing with the radio station. You can't have two people sitting next to each other trying to play on 88.1 that music. They have to either be far, far away or on a completely different frequency. Well, it's the same thing with the radio. So actually, the way that the spectrum is broken down is you have low band, mid band, and high band, and that just has to do with how wide the waves are to send the information through. Okay. I know this seems like a lot, and I'm trying to break this down. If I'm not doing a good job, y'all please tell me, and I'll try to elaborate a little bit more. Okay. So the wider the bandwidth, which is the frequency, the less information that can go through, because it's open. If you can imagine I meant to roll this up sooner, I'm sorry, y'all. Okay. You can imagine a circle, okay? On the wider frequency, which is low frequency, it's like a small straw. There's not a lot of room to send information through because it's wider. And so by the time it gets to where it's going, it can't carry a lot of information, it's lost. So as the frequency gets higher, the higher band, the area for information widens. You can send more information through a tighter band because it can hold more. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? Okay. So, most want to tell y'all on here. Okay, so, low frequencies we usually can hear them. Have y'all ever been at a grocery store or somewhere and you have some guy driving by and he's got his bass turned up and it's just thumping? I mean, it's just shaking everything. Doom, doom. You know what I'm saying? Like, have you ever felt that? That's low frequency. It can travel through multiple surfaces. It can travel through buildings and everything. You can hear that. Higher frequencies are weaker and they can't flow through buildings. And so it's because it's a shorter distance to carry a lot of information. So what's happening with 5G is our government is in negotiation to get more space on the frequency spectrum, or the radio frequency spectrum. Because like I said, it's like real estate. So, I'm gonna use this actually. So if you can think of the frequency spectrum like real estate, let's say it's like land. So you've got let's say some sand here, some sandy ground here. Okay, some rock ground. And then you have plush green fields here. Nice plush green fields. And then you have trees, forest, and then you have mountains. My drawing's not the best, but y'all understand what I'm saying. So if you can think of it like real estate, and you need to farm, which is basically what technology is moving. So right here in mid-band is the sweet spot. This is where you would want to put your crops. It's plain lush fields. You can plant your corn, soy, whatever. Then you get into higher band, which is micro and millimeter waves. It's like trees and forest area. Well, in order to be able to use this, because this is what's not being used right now, in order to get to use this, what would they have to do with the trees?
Cut them down.
Cut them down. So it is usable land, it would just have to be recultivated. So that's basically what I'm going to explain to you when it comes to millimeter waves and 5G. If you can just picture the real estate, because this is all taken up, just like in the radio frequencies. All these stations are already taken. So the only space that we have is over here in this higher frequency area, in microwaves and millimeter waves. Okay? So, now that I've explained that, in the same instance of having to take the trees down, since it's higher frequency, it's not going to be able to penetrate walls. So where we have all these cell towers, everywhere, which most cell towers in a very populated area, most of them are set with a hexagon type space that it covers, of coverage, to send out the information. Well, the information it goes out just fine on lower frequency waves. It can make it through because they're longer waves and it has more space to carry the information. But now that you're moving into the higher frequency, it can't penetrate through walls or trees and things like that. So if you have a tree here, then you lose your coverage. If you're here, or if you have a building here, and you're inside, that information won't come in the building. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because the frequency is not strong enough to penetrate buildings and trees, and even rain. If it gets a rainy day, then you're going to lose your signal. So how do they solve that? They move to smaller cells. So if you live in a urban area, okay, and your cell phones are over here, you see what I'm saying? So if you're on this side, like I said, it's not gonna get to you because it can't get through the building. I'm probably gonna change the color so y'all. Just give me a second. So the frequency's trying to come through and it can't. It just stops on the building because it's a higher bandwidth. So what do? We add smaller cell towers or smaller cells. So now the information comes here, and if we have a cell here, then it bounces the information there, and then it can get to your cell phones. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's where the small cell comes in 5G. This is one of the things people are afraid of, because instead of having a giant tower just in a particular area that covers a wide span, now they're going to have to hit businesses. If you want 5G in a residential area, they're going to have to put them on the side of your house, which, you know, some people are like, oh my goodness, I don't want to do that, but you already have TV antennas, so in a sense it would be the same thing as putting a TV antenna. Kind of seems like we're working backwards in technology, doesn't it? But the reason why we're having to do that is because where we're at on the spectrum, we can't use the mid-band to transfer the information, so we have to use the higher band. So now we're having to use smaller cells with millimeter and microwaves. Okay? So once we get to smaller cells, that creates another problem. And so MIMO, which is multiple input, multiple output. That's the word I'm looking for. I don't know why y'all, I'm trying to do the best I can, but I'm coming in and out. Okay, so on each one of these cell towers, they have things called nodes that sends out this information. There's usually about a dozen on the towers, okay? And this is what they use to send the information to. Well, if we're going to have smaller cells to send information to, which is going to open up a lot more people on the internet and a lot more information being moved, then it's actually going to slow it down, because all the information is going to have to come in these few dozen to send out to these other cells. So how do they solve that? They have to do massive MIMO, which is multiple input, multiple output. And I'm going to erase this real quick and draw this out real quick so you understand what I'm saying. So you have your cell tower, and you have so instead of a dozen, now it's going to have about 100 of them on each tower. So it can send out the information to the bigger beams and to the smaller nodes. So that creates another problem. You see why it's taking so long to get into different technologies. We've been in 4G for quite some time. But that creates another problem, because if you have a tower and it's sending out all this information, and then you've got another one over here in the same area, or close to the same area, and it's sending out its information. It's sending out information, this one's sending out information, and then you'll have another one here. They start to cross each other. And so once again, we have another storm of information that's bumping into each other. So it's going to slow down again. So then that's why they started doing beam forming. And so, you know, I told you about the small cell that they're putting on the building. So we have the small cell on the building so we can reach the people with their cell phones. Building here. Okay. So when the information is coming to here, now all this congestion is happening in this smaller area, along with the we've solved this problem because now we've got multiple nodes and they're sending those out. So now whenever the information's coming to the smaller cells to get the information to the cell phones, now we have a bunch of clusters going on here. And all the information is getting lost again. So now they're going to have to put up something called a, I forget what it's called. I thought I wrote it down, and I didn't. But it's pretty much like a transistor that they put on the cell that'll break all this information down, and it collects your information. Okay, whatever you're sending to these cells, the information you're sending to these cells, this little extra box that they put with the cell that's going to beamform to send your information is going to collect your information, sort it out, and then find a direct route to send it to the cell phones. Okay? Like I said, it's a whole lot of stuff that they have to do. So now, on top of putting small cells, now we're going to have another little device that's going to be connected to the cell that's going to absorb all of your information, put it in a little washing machine, move it around, and then separate it out so then it can go where it's supposed to go. And then we run into full duplex, which is the communication line. Whenever, when you're on a walkie-talkie and you push the button, you say, you talk, then you let it go, then the next person talks. Well, the information that's running from each line, that's pretty much how it has to work. So they're building a new switch so then you can move information. If you think about it like a train, think of it like a railroad track. You got a train on the track, and you've got another train. If they run into each other, they're going to crash. So right now what they do is they take the train off the track and move it down here, move it down here. And so this train passes, and then that train gets back on the track, and it goes to the cell phone. So what they're doing is instead of having to stop, okay, let me explain this. So have y'all been on the cell phone talking, and you're just talking away, and all of a sudden somebody comes in on the cell phone and is like, I didn't hear anything you just said. It just got quiet. Y'all ever happen on a cell phone? Or vice versa, it's done the other way. Or both of y'all can't hear anything, and it's just gotten quiet. This is what's going on, okay? Because the signal is trying to get to the cell phone, it's being stopped. And so it has to come off and let the other information come through. That's why somebody who's talking can finish talking when they stop. Then the signal can push what you're saying back to them. Hey, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. You see what I'm saying? That's what's going on here. So if you can put it in real life so you understand what I'm talking about. So that's the problem that they're also going to have. That's going to get worse. With all this going on, that's going to get worse. It's almost going to go back to walkie-talkie times where you literally can't talk to anybody until the other person finishes because the information that's pushing back and through, especially with video chat, because it's not only sending voice, it's sending video. So now that's how they're going to do it is they're going to put a switch on it. So instead of taking it off the track, they're actually going to just make a loop in it. So now when it comes through, it would just go this way, and the other one would go this way. So then they just pass each other. This is another part of the technology. Okay? So I know I bored y'all with all this technology mumbo jumbo, and I apologize because it's not exciting, but it's all to explain what comes up next, okay? So, I've put this in the absolute basic form I could possibly, because, if I really got into size and frequency and math and all the different names of everything, then I would really, really bore y'all. So, to understand that, now we understand microwaves and millimeter waves. Okay, we're back on the frequency spectrum. Remember the real estate we were talking about. Okay? So this is where we talk about, is it good or bad? All right? So there's two aspects of whether or not it's good or bad. The health risks and the security risk. Since it's health class, I'm going to start with the health risk, which is, again, micro and millimeter waves. So, how many of y'all have a microwave in your house? Okay. Y'all understand how the microwave works, right? Okay. Did you know that the same microwave, 2.4 gigahertz, that they use to heat your food is the same microwaves from a Wi-Fi signal, from the base Wi-Fi signal? It's 2.4. And then, of course, it moves up to 5, so it can get your information to you. Does everybody know what Wi-Fi is, correct? Okay. So basically, Wi-Fi is the same thing as the small cells, but just in your home. So they've done studies in the past on microwaves, because there was a whole time, I think it was somewhere around 2014, 2016, where a lot of different reports were coming out where women were getting tumors and skin deformities and rashes and burns and stuff like that, where they were putting their cell phones. One girl had a cell phone in her bra, and it showed where small tumors had formed next to the tissue. Same thing with, they did studies, and guys that were keeping their phones in their pockets, their sperm count was lower, the sperm was weaker. So everybody knows, if you put, what a microwave does, when you put your food in the microwave, it's not radiation. Everybody knows the difference between ionized radiation and non-ionized radiation? Okay, well, there's two separate kinds of radiation. There's radiation, and then there's ionized radiation. And I can explain that a little bit. So it's basically the same thing when it comes to radiation, the same thing as the spectrum, so we can use the same graph so you can understand what I'm talking about. So low frequency microwaves are wider, and then it gets smaller and smaller till it gets to the smallest. So when you start looking at it from what, or asking what they are, excuse me, y'all, I'm stuttering all over the place, please forgive me. Try to get my information. Okay, so I don't want to tell you wrong. Okay, so we have radio frequencies, which is, again, what we were talking about, like if a CB radio, or when you listen to your radio. Then it moves to microwaves, which is actually what we are already on right now. Microwave frequencies for cell phones and telecommunications and things like that. And so if I got into the hertz and stuff like that, let me show you. I made what we're talking about when we say a wavelength, when I showed you the ups and downs, it's measuring the space between the dips of the microwaves. If we could actually visually see this, it would literally look like waves, everything that we're doing, communications that's coming in and out to us. And so the microwaves are what we use for cell phones and actual microwave ovens and things like that. And then it moves into infrared rays. And y'all know what infrared rays are? Ultraviolet rays, that sort of thing. It's a very small section on the radiation era that we can see. So when the sun comes up, that's actual radiation from the sun. Now, at certain times of the day, what time is it, like between noon and 2, is the higher risk of ionized radiation from the sun. And that's what causes us to tan or even burn. And that can give us skin cancer. That's ionized radiation, which is bad because it's very, very small, minimal waves. So if you could see it in real life, it would be, the radio waves would be about this wide. okay, if you understand the length. And then, if you get to, what are they called, microwaves, this is about the length. You can actually do this at home if you want to see what I'm talking about, or if, just for an experiment. If you take a plate, a square plate or a round plate, and scatter some shredded cheese on it, real cheese or fake cheese, whatever, anything, something that'll melt like shredded cheese, put it on a plate and set it on a cup, and get it as high as you can to the top of the microwave. Okay, not the bottom, but the top of the microwave. And then you turn on the microwave and you let it run. Not the rotating kind, just the stationary kind. When you pull that back out, you'll have spots of melted cheese and spots that didn't get touched. That's because that's where the waves are cresting and not touching. So that's what this is right here. And it would be about that much space between each spot that's melted and not melted. So now we're moving into microwaves and millimeter waves. So these two right here are the size of the waves that are coming from your cell phone, your Wi-Fi, and any other form of communications, if you can visually see the length of those waves. And they get smaller as you start to reach what we see in light, okay? So once you get past that, I mean, obviously what you can't see, it actually gets small as a nanomillimeter. And so that's where ionizing radiation is bad, X-rays. When you go get an X-ray, if you break your foot, you get an X-ray of your foot. They have to use ionized radiation. That's why when they come in, they have to put protective gear on, cover your eyes, cover your, any other parts of your body, so you're not exposed to any more other than where it's at. Small exposures are supposedly safe, but anybody who knows anything about multiple X-rays and chemotherapy and that sort of thing, it actually makes it worse than it does help it. Because what ionizing radiation does is once it gets in the skin and it gets to the cells, it'll actually make them deform. And they'll either, once they start to form back, they'll either come back misshapen or they'll be destroyed completely. And so that's where doctors are like, oh, ionized radiation, like giving chemotherapy, that's what they're doing. They're going in and they're just killing those cancer cells. They're just shooting them and making them disappear, right? So that's the difference between ionized radiation and non-ionizing radiation. Is ionized is anything that we past what we can't see in X-rays and infrared, ultraviolet, and that sort of thing. So whenever they start building all these towers and they're doing these cell towers, they'll be sending microwaves through the air. We already, like I said, we're already exposed to waves right now. In fact, we're exposed to them right now, with a Wi-Fi. But just like in the microwave, all it does is it takes the cells and it just aggravates them and causes friction and makes them warm up. Well, has anybody held their phone next to their face and it started to get warm? Well, they say that the reason why that does that is because the battery and it's pushing the power through. But if there's a guy that actually did a experiment, and of course I don't have the video, I can send all these links to Dee and then she can send them to you. But he actually had a microwave leak detector and a Geiger counter. Do y'all know what a Geiger counter is? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the leak detector only detects microwaves, non-ionizing radiation. Geiger counter detects ionized radiation, which is harmful to the body, okay? So what he did is he tested it on the microwave, and of course, if you take the microwave detector and you get all the way up to the microwave, it just goes into overload. But as you back it away from the microwave door, it gets less and less dangerous. In fact, only about 3 inches from the microwave, it's almost obsolete. Like you're not getting any radiation within. That's why they tell you don't stand there and stare at your food in the microwave while it's heating up. I don't own a microwave. I don't heat up anything because I don't like them. But if you do have one, obviously you don't stand in front of it. You don't stand there with your cell phone because the radiation is still coming out. So he did the same thing with his cell phone. He actually set the microwave detector on his cell phone. And you know that Hey Siri or Alexa or, you know, this voice command. So he set it on his table and he said, "Hey Alexa," or Siri or whatever he had. And when it did, the micro counter went overload. So it shows that there's microwaves coming from the cell phone. Then he called his wife. The microwaves were over the charts. They were about, I think it was like 9, where it's only supposed to be like 0.09. So when you're right up against your phone, you're getting the highest amount of microwaves, okay, straight into your face. That's why they actually pass laws that say that they're supposed to give you a full disclosure. If y'all had the time, if everybody wanted to pull their cell phones out, I could take you through the steps to go through your settings, then you go to security, then you go to license or legal. I mean, they make it 1,000 steps to get there, okay? But if you finally can get there, and I actually looked it up on my phone, it actually tells you on your phone, they have to legally tell you that to not keep your phone in your bra or in your pocket. And all cell phones now, whenever they sell you a cell phone, the smartphones that have the double antenna and the higher frequency that comes out of them, the radio waves that come out of them, they have to sell you a headset with it. So if anybody wanted to know why they get free headphones, is because, or headphones with their cell phone, is a lot of countries and a lot of places require headsets sold with the phones, so you're not holding them up against your face. So they actually tried to pass more laws against it because it's something that we haven't tested. I don't smoke cigarettes, and I don't know a lot of people that smoke cigarettes. But y'all remember when the cigarettes first started, and everybody was smoking. They were like, "Oh, it's beneficial, it's great," and people were smoking on airplanes. Okay, and they were like, "Oh, well, there's no harmful effects. We haven't seen any harmful effects." Well, it's because there hasn't been any testing. It's unknown. It wasn't until, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, they were like, "Oh, crap, this is giving people cancer. Might want to stop this." So they made regulations. You can't smoke in airplanes, can't smoke in buildings. In fact, you can't smoke within like 30, 50 feet of a building now, because they realized after, a long period of time, it costs people's lives. Well, the same thing is going on with radiation from cell phones. It's untested. And as technology progresses, we can't keep up. The testing can't keep up because we're still testing 2G. We don't even know what the effects of 2G has done to us, or even 3G, because of the waves that we're already exposed to. Because just like whenever Nagasaki got bombed, and everybody was, they tested them and everybody seemed fine. And then 40 years later, everybody came up sick. And they're like, well, it was because 40 years it took. And like I said, with technology moving as fast as we can, as it's going, we can't keep up. So there's a very big gap between testing this information and testing the health risks that come with this. And once they start rolling out 5G, it's only going to get worse because it's untested. We don't even know the results from 2G and 3G. So we don't know what these small cells and these microwaves are going to do to us. Is it going to be bad? They say it's not, but most of their studies, they require the actual service providers, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, whatever it is, they require them to keep up with the information and then give it to them. Well, I don't know if y'all, that's like walking up to the mafia and say, "Hey, could you let us know how many people you killed this year? We need to know." So, I mean, it's silly. Like, we don't have an outside source that's testing it. Of course, our government, we all want to be the number one first person in line for technology. So, moving from radiation, the next the other part, and the thing that I feel like is the real threat of 5G. This is the scary part, okay? But that wasn't scary enough. This is the scary part, is your security. in Japan or in China right now, they are the leading company, or they're the leading country of technology. They have they're part of this great real estate right here. They have the mid-band. Okay, so they have been moving through technology. They're almost years ahead of us in technology. In fact, they've already launched most of their 5G in China right now. And so, you know, when we have a cell phone here in America, so we're all about our security and our privacy here in America. Y'all notice it used to be you'd have to go to your service provider, they put all your information in there, and then if you want to swap to another phone, you had to go back up there, then they swap everything, and now we've got a SIM card. You know what a SIM card is? The little, if you want to change out your device, you just take that little SIM card and put it in your new phone. But everything's encrypted. All of our information is encrypted. So when it goes out into this big open area, it has a code on it. So nobody can just reach up and grab our information. Whereas radio, like on a basic landline, you could actually reverse the frequency and listen in on phone conversations. I mean, they were doing it. They made movies about it. But you can't do that now because of the way that they've advanced technology. So the United States, we like our privacy. So that's why they had to make all these chips that go into cell phones and that sort of thing. Well, if you don't want to be involved in technology and you don't want your information out there, of course, I guess everybody knows now, you can actually take your cell phone, if you go to a restaurant or whatever, and they have this little thing on the back of it, and you can just take your phone, swipe it across the pay, and it pulls your information. You don't even need a debit card. Did y'all know that? That exists right now in America. It's called Google Pay, and it's called an NFC that's on the back of your cell phone that holds all that information. If I could peel one back, I could show you. It's like a little flat piece of plastic with a bunch of stuff. It's called NFC. And so now you can just hold your phone up to something, and it pays for it. It transfers the information that fast from all of your bank account data or whatever it is, and you make your payment. But in China, with the new rollout of 5G, information can move so fast that you could actually walk there. The idea is that you could walk outside of your house and just say, Uber. Y'all know what Uber is? Okay. So you walk out and you say, Uber. You don't have to pick up your phone. There's a node or an infrared camera that can, and with a microphone that can hear you say that. It reads your face identification. The car shows up. There's no driver in it. It's a self-driven car. You get in it. It takes you wherever you want to go. But let's say you get on right now in Japan, or in China right now. This is the technology they're moving towards. But right now in China, you can actually, and I believe it's in Japan too, they're pretty up with technology. I keep saying this. China, I know for sure. But in China, you can go to KFC app online, order your food, right? You just order your food online. When you walk up to the door at KFC, there's an infrared camera that recognizes your face. So when you walk in to buy a bucket of chicken, as soon as you walk in the door, it says, "Hello, Alex. Welcome to KFC. Your order is ready." That's it. You didn't do anything on your phone. It literally just read your face and knew who you were because of the information you'd already given it on your phone. So, here in America, if you don't want to get involved in that, guess what you have? Just don't have a cell phone. You opt out. You don't have to, every time you download something that says, "Do you agree to the terms and conditions?" Nope. I don't want nobody getting my information. But once 5G rolls out, you don't have a choice. You can't opt out. They're going to have your information because it reads everything. In fact, Washington, D.C. right now has a bicycle that's called Mobike. Okay, and it was introduced in China. It's called Mobike. And so you get 5G in America yet, so you still have to get on your phone. Get on the phone and you order you a Mobike. So you go up to this little station, there's a bunch of bikes sitting there, and it reads your phone that you're there. It unlocks the bike from the thing. Take the bike off, jump on it, ride it wherever through Washington DC you want to go. There's another hub, you park the bike, lock it in, done. You don't have to swipe your card, you don't have to throw a nickel in it, you don't have to do it's all on your phone. But here's the scary part. A guy, one of our embassy, U.S. embassy, or U.S. ambassadors was in China, and he's learning about 5G because, you know, like I said, they're trying to roll it out in the United States. So he goes over there to learn about it. So they have mobiles over there, which is where they created, was in China. And so one of his workers actually got on one of the bikes and rode it through the town and came up to the embassy, dropped off the bike, came in the building. Well, he forgot his iPad. Left his iPad in the basket of the bike. So they go to the public security office in China and say, hey, I've left my tablet in this mobile. They get on their computer within seconds. They have the guy's phone number who has the tablet in his hand. He's already taken it out of the basket. They have his phone, they're calling him on his phone and telling him to bring the tablet back. Y'all understand what I'm saying? They had no clue who this guy was. But they got the information just from infrared cameras and identification, just by pinging where he was and where the last place that tablet was. That's the technology that they're trying to bring into the United States. And so there's a lot of controversy in it because obviously we like our security, but if you live in an urban area or in the city or anything like that, you know, you can't opt out. They're actually already putting up 5G towers in Montgomery, Addison. They've got them down the interstates, Florence. All these different places are already put. Yes, it's already in Alabama. They've already started putting the towers for the rollout in Alabama right now. So I didn't elaborate on all the things, but I tried to tell you what I felt like was the most important. Miss, what was your name? Cookie. I know y'all had some stuff that you wanted to talk to people about with the radiation.
Talk about, I had something I wanted to show, but you talk about the dangers of it with the cell phone. You talk about a cell phone,
Close to your
laptop?
No, I'm only talking about 5G and the rollout of 5G and the dangers with it. But just real quick before I ask her to come up, she wants to talk about some protective items. But does anyone have any questions? Because I've got a lot more information. I've tried to get it as small as I could, and I know it sounds like just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. I'm really sorry, but
you mentioned to escape them knowing where you are and just giving your phone. With 5G, whether you have a phone or not, you're not able to escape those rates.
no, you can't opt out.
Okay.
No, ma'am. Now 5G, like I said, they've already started rolling it out. But it's going to take a while to get there because, again, the problem that we're having is that the other countries have the better part of the spectrum than we do. Over there, it's already in place. It's the information can move faster and all that kind of stuff.
And
Yes.
another thing I had heard was to escape the radiation waves if you move to the country where you were safe. But even with 5G, even moving to the country, you're not going to be safe because the towers have to be so close together.
Well, I think, honestly, I think rural areas are safe because even with the rollout of 5G, where they're at right now, it literally only covers it's not even a square mile right now because, like I said, they have to put small cell towers on each corners of side. Right now it's still in testing. Here in America it's still in testing. Because again, over in the other countries, they have a different frequency, but they don't have to have these small cells. Their towers, their telecommunications and things like that can carry all of this information. They can already move into 5G. Where ours is different. We have to have the smaller cells and move on higher microwaves. So they're not going to get the same kind of waves that we're getting here. Theirs are a lot more, they're like what we have right now, where it's a lot wider. Remember I showed you the graph. Theirs is gonna be, you know, these right here. Ours is gonna come to these sides.
Which are more dangerous.
Which are seemingly more dangerous, because again, like I said, whenever you get up to a microwave, you know, it's aggravating the cells. Microwaves don't destroy cells, but it aggravates them. It's the same instance if you put a plastic container or styrofoam in the microwave and it shrinks up. Y'all, you know what I'm talking about? You'll ever microwave styrofoam? Well, when it starts to disintegrate, all those chemicals are being released, okay? So the tissues, like in a woman's breast or a man's testicles or your eyeballs even, which children and young children are more susceptible to this. They're in the worst danger. And, you know, I saw this, there's a product online. You know the little seats for babies. You can put the little baby in it and they have a little toy thing. They reach up and they smack the little toy thing. Now they've come out with an iPad holder. I'm not joking, this is real. So there's a little, you put the little baby in the seat and you put the tablet within this much space of that baby's face. No joke, this is real. And they're saying that iPads are the new babysitter. I'm like, if you need an iPad to babysit your kids, you really need to rethink reproducing, okay? So that's what we're living in right now, because people don't know that those microwaves, especially if we move to 5G, those microwaves are going to be smaller that are coming out and it's pulsating. And it can affect the eyes and cause distortion of the molecules in your eyes.
Well, that
because
ought to be
there's no,
against the law.
huh?
That ought to be against the law.
But it's not. I mean, because there's no, I mean, we come to a health class and we talk about all the health foods and that sort of thing, but if we had a whole nother health class, we could talk about who owns the FDA, who owns the Cancer Society, who owns Susan G. Komen, who owns all that. You can really talk about it. There was actually, if y'all, just homework, look up the movie, What the Health. It's called What the Health. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about? Huh? You can get it on Netflix. Yeah, you can get it on YouTube, Netflix, but it's called What the Health. Okay? And a guy did a whole documentary where he actually went and tried to talk to these foundations about, okay, why are y'all saying, if chicken has carcinogens in it, why are y'all recommending people to eat chicken when it carries carcinogens? We don't want to talk about that. We're here to talk about, you know, what we do with the family. We're not talking about diet. None of them want to talk about diet because that's the solution. You can't make money with diet. We make money with chemotherapy. We make money with cancer treatment. That's how we make money. That's what it's all about. So it's the same thing with the rollout of 5G. They're not going to tell you all the dangers of it because we don't know. As far as we know, there's no harm in it. We've been microwaving our food for years. We're fine, right? We're just one of the highest obesity countries in the whole world, you know. We're one of the most malnourished countries. We're one of the fastest dying. Our suicide rate's gone up 20%. But we're good, right? We're all healthy. Yes.
You know, 3 things. It was amazing. When I got sick just recently, I have this little connection thing to get on internet. Well, I could not find it. But then when I got better, much better, I prayed. I said, well, God, if you had me not to find that because you didn't want me to, then may I find it now. Found it. And I had looked that very place. Folks, not by might, not by power, by His Spirit. We can hide under His wing. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, remember they were thrown in the fiery furnace? God will take care of us. When I went to college, they told us, they said, don't buy microwaves. And they would give them to us because we were home economists. They'd give them to us almost because they told us the dangers of it. And you remember what Dr. Robertson said? Anytime you get an x-ray or anytime you get sick, get off of all these devices. But if you get an x-ray, and I have a friend that she had so many x-rays, they built up in her body. But anytime you get an x-ray, For the first 3 nights, take 10 activated charcoals right before you go to bed. Then the following nights, 10 acidophilus, and it will pull that mess out. They found that in Hiroshima, it was only activated charcoal. But God will show us what to do. Folks, Satan wants us to be afraid. We're to be wise. This is why she's sharing all this. But God will take care of us. But we need to do what we can do.
And do you have to be the next 3 nights, or can it be 3
No,
nights later on?
it's got to be one after. First 3 nights, it will pull all that mess out.
But it won't pull it out a week later?
Oh, yeah, if you work, it's best to do it right away.
Yeah.
But if you do it later, you'll do it too.
What was it again? You have an x-ray, then that day and the next 2 days, you do
3.
3 nights, you will take 10 activated charcoals. And then the following 3 nights, you will take 10 vegan acidophilus, because that will straighten up the mess in your stomach. But
Please
folks,
consider what kind of activated charcoal you're getting, because, you know, it's one of the trend things that's going
Yeah.
on right now. My favorite, I told Alex, but my favorite's the toothpaste, activated charcoal toothpaste. It's a joke, because the whole point of charcoal is in its purest form, other than coconut oil, because it doesn't bond with oil. Y'all know how water and oil works, but you know, they put these activated charcoal in the chemical toothpaste, and then they say, oh, it's going to be great, but it doesn't do anything because it's absorbed in the chemicals of the toothpaste. So, I'm just saying, if you're going to brush your teeth with charcoal, use coconut oil and activated charcoal if you need something to smear it on. But if you can just put it on there straight, I mean, some people have a problem with that feeling of just powder in their mouth. But if you have to do something,
10
put oil with it.
10
activated
You're talking
charcoal,
about the tablets.
yeah.
Yeah, or, yeah, tablets. of powder.
capsules.
Oh, she's talking about tablets. Did anybody have any more questions? I'm sorry if it just.
I had a comment.
Mhm.
You were talking about the babies and how it messes with their eyes and all that. Before I retired, the school system that I worked in, K through 8th grade, every child had an iPad, individual iPad, and they were on those iPads all day long. And that was the big thing that the school system promoted as far as advertising families to move to the Atkinson school system, was that we were so technical.
Well, see, what they're doing right now, like I said, this is part of the government pushing, because remember the race to the moon? Do y'all remember that? Like, you know, everybody was talking about going to the moon, so it was a huge race. So now we got to form NASA, we got to get all these rocket scientists, buy them out from other countries, get them in. We got to be the first one to get on the moon because, you know, America, right? So it's the same thing. It's the first person that can get in the next newest technology, and so we have a huge shortage of cybersecurity right now, huge shortage, because most of our kids aren't applying themselves in college. I actually released a video on Facebook today that 2 out of 3 college graduates can't even name 2 of the Bill of Rights. College graduates, they can't name 2 of the Bill of Rights, because our education system is just broken. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to push more technology into the United States. But what they're not telling them about the tablet, and actually there was a lady that did a whole presentation on that. It's called a tablet because it goes on the table. It's a table computer. But wait, what do we see kids in the grocery store? Mama's keeping the baby quiet so she's not trying to have the cereal. So what do? We hand them the big old tablet and they hold it right here. Okay, we're all most mature adults. All of our stuff is we're done forming. Our cells are not multiplying anymore. In fact, we're starting to, disintegrate. That's what aging is. Babies are still forming cells. They're multiplying. They're growing. What is that micro radiation doing when it's aggravating those cells? And it's right here in their face. And they're, like I said, they're not talking about it because there's no research. We haven't found any testing, and we haven't found any health risk or anything like that. They said the same thing about cigarettes. So. Did anybody have any more questions for me? I tried to do my best to explain it. Did I do okay?
Let's give her a big hand. She did super.
Thank you. I know it's a lot. I'm trying to
That was
I
super.
mean, it's a lot of information, and I tried to give it to you the best I could. I'm sorry.
Angie, you want to have prayer for us before we go?
Yes, that's fine. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this night. Thank you for letting us all gather here and get here safely and further educate us about health. And we know that, Lord, if we put everything in your hands, that you will take care of us. And just watch over everyone through these storms and make sure everyone is safe. And help us get home safely. In your name I pray. Amen.
You guys, I'll be putting this.